Okay.
Okay, we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is Dale, and I am a co-host of Trauma to Love, along with my co-host, Miss Leslie, Reverend Leslie, I should say. And
That's all
she
right.
is an RN, of course, and that helps matters because I need all the help I can get. Let me tell you, it's been a marvelous.
No, yes, for the not for the podcast, but for the other. So, how are you doing today? How was your weekend?
Oh, my weekend was miserable. I just been this congestion with this COPD is just driving. I was in the hospital. No, wasn't in the hospital this week. It was last week. I
Mhm.
had that migraine I told you about, along with the
Yeah,
COPD exacerbation.
yeah,
So I had both of them. It was just miserable. And then the headache's gone. I don't have the headache anymore. That was a 4 day ordeal. But other than that, I've had a pretty good week, except for
yeah.
when it snowed.
Still snowing? You said that's right. You said April, March, April is the snowy month up
Yeah,
there.
well, April's over almost. I don't think we're going to get any more snow in Denver. We might get some in the
Okay.
high country, but we're not going to get any in Denver.
Time is flying by so quickly, it's freaking me out. I'm like,
It is.
no, it's the end. Now
Now
I
we're
know why I never like set goals and put dates on them because it just makes you feel like a failure when you don't meet them and you're actually working hard. But it's funny, real quick though, because today we're going to talk about trauma and crime, and along with that comes a lot of issues like neurodiversity, but also comes, since you were mentioning health, in my journey the last few years, when all of the things that came about because my body didn't feel safe, and like my nervous system was working in a state of chronic toxic stress, which creates all these not life threatening illnesses, but all the autoimmune. So things just don't make you feel your best, right?
right.
And I've realized over the years how, for people in trauma, I think a lot of reason why we don't have trouble succeeding in the way others is when you're chronically feeling like shit. Sorry, when you're chronically not feeling well, it's really hard to do what you want to do at the level you want to do it. And the irony is, though, when you're not feeling well either, your energy's not that you attract people that you need to support you in it.
No,
And
no.
so once you're in that chronic illness, you do get in this cycle, which it's really hard because even what you need, right? When I'm like um, some of the issues I've had, but when I'm not feeling myself, like internally, like I'm just major brain fog or whatever, and I go out into the world, what I need is like the connection, the emotional intimacy. But
Mhm.
because I'm not feeling that, it prevents me sometimes from approaching people. And so I'm seeing why a lot of the world the way we are, why the way we are. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It's
I got you.
and
Well,
yeah,
something flashed into my mind while you were talking. And when you feel that way, text me.
yeah. Wait, what did you say when you feel that way? What was the
When
last
you
word?
feel that way, when you're out and about and you're just blur,
Yeah. And
and
I'm
you just
like, if I feel that way,
call me or text me.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Sometimes it's just I need, you know, as I said before, throughout my life, I had the same physical things that have hit the fan the last couple of years and have really exhausted me. I had them all my life, but they kind of lay dormant because of connection and hugging people 15, 20 times a day.
Yeah.
It physically was like a weighted blanket. It's helping my nervous system feel safe. And for me, as I said, it's my mindset can be great. But when my body's off, it's like it's hard to regulate the body when the mind is fine.
Well, such a connection between the mind and the body that most people don't realize. They don't understand.
And the brain too,
But yeah,
you
that's
know?
what I meant. The brain, the mind, they're so connected together. The mind can cure you or it can make you very sick. Depending on where the body is, it can do the same thing to the mind.
Yes. Yeah, because when you buy, and that's the whole thing with trauma is, and trauma, my definition of trauma from the research I've done and from my own lived experience is that trauma is anything that makes you feel physically or emotionally unsafe, real or perceived. That's it. For
That's it.
me, what I never understood until the last couple of years is with the brain injury I had, there was as long as my eyes are open, my body doesn't feel safe. I drop.
Mhm.
If I had $1 for every time I drop things during the day or trip and fall, right?
Yeah.
So my body, no matter how rock kick ass of a mindset I have, my body's still going to be in that state of chronic stress
Yeah. Because,
unless I close
well,
my eyes.
I
Yeah,
found
and I
out that,
think there are probably a lot of people, maybe not to the degree I have, but there are a lot of people like that,
here's
you
the
know?
problem: the body remembers the pain. The body
Right, but
remembers wherever they touched you or hurt you or caused damage to you or wherever you were hurt, whether it was somebody else or an auto accident or something. The body's going to remember that pain in that spot.
so I don't even think, at least I can't speak for others. In my experience, it's not even that. It's a car accident, but trauma can do the same thing, change the structure of my brain.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
right? And there are things in brain like we think we can always, there's plasticity. Sometimes when they're structural, it's like saying you have a blocked artery and you can just like think your way out of a blocked artery. Ain't happening.
No,
And we don't look at the brain that way. There's some things you can change, but there's some things that are structural. They develop, it was a developmental, I don't delay, whatever word you want to use. But so for people like myself, you got to learn how to calm the body when your mind is fine. And it's not related to a trauma. It's related, it's like learning to write your lungs. If you can sit there and vision, you might be able to slow the thing. But if there's structural damage, you can't
no.
vision your way out structural damage. It would be like saying, okay, I have one leg, I'm going to vision a new one and it'll grow back. There are many things the brain is super powerful,
And
but
it can't.
that I don't believe yet it can do.
I don't believe it.
Now,
I
I
don't believe
believe
it's
in
over.
magic, but I don't believe. So there are
I
people
believe in
out there,
miracles.
and here's my experience for myself, and this could lead into the crime thing because it has to do with self confidence and doubting yourself. And I knew I had these physical things, but in the back of my mind, hearing the world talk about this, I'm going, am I am I like telling myself this? And I'm like, I'd have to whip out the tests and go, no, this is a real thing. Like, but it did make me doubt myself and it made me fearful that I had something that's going to be there every day. And every time I tried to get help for it, I was either told nothing you can do, deal with it, or it's in your mind. And I was like, ah. And I think a lot of people in trauma face that because what they're dealing with in the body is not understood. And so people assume it's mental and it's not. What really keeps it at bay? And I don't believe we can heal ourselves without emotional intimacy with others, whether it be strangers or whatever. But I think the body needs that. And I don't think people in trauma get that because they're judged. It's just, they're lumped
We
into a
are
group
judged.
and here, yeah,
We are judged by our trauma. Because, as I said, the body remembers the pain or the spot of the pain. It remembers the pushes and the pulls, the hits, and they may not remember a black and blue spot, but
yeah,
it's remembered it hurt. The
yeah,
body remembers these things.
yeah.
And that
Well,
can hurt.
even
So when
the
the trauma,
smells,
so when
go
the
ahead.
pain is caused by trauma, which it always is, pain is always trauma. No matter how you
Mm,
get it. You fall off the slide, that's going to be trauma. Or if you're sexually abused, that's going to be trauma. And they're going to remember
yeah,
the pain. The body
hmm
will remember.
yeah,
That's
you
where
know.
therapy can come in and be very helpful.
Well, I think what you have to, like I just kind of do, so I said I've taken baths because days when my mind, I can usually, unless I'm really sick and my hormones, like endocrine system's off,
Right.
I'm really good at having a really positive mindset where I see the gift to everything. But there are many days where my body's trembling from the inside out. And I'm like, "Ah," what do I do? Because then, like, I can't pick up things, I can't write, like all the things you're supposed to do. And that's when the fear sets in. And the only thing for me that helps is jumping in a tub and just sitting in quiet. But, you know, um, but those are where the things that I've had to actually check out of life for a while to do that stuff,
Do you
you
have?
know?
Do you ever get impending doom thoughts?
With humanity, yes. For no, to
Or to yourself?
I no, for myself, no. I do get in very much overwhelmed. And for me, because of the brain injury and the visual, when my outside world is cluttered,
Hmm.
my brain just goes into friggin' overwhelm because it's seeing just a right. So I'm in the process of moving now. I can't tell you. You should have a camera on me during the day. I'm like, it's all right, baby. It's okay. Just close your eyes. You know what you're doing. Just kick everything to the side, right? Because there's stuff all in. So when I have too much of everything, which is why this whole business and everything I created, there's so many pieces. I get into overwhelm, and that's when my fear sets in.
Okay. Because mine
You
sets
know,
in when I start remembering things.
yeah. See, luckily,
Something triggers me.
yeah. I I've been blessed in that I don't have the memories, and when I did the work, and when I uncovered all my traumas, I didn't want to see them. There's no need for us to see the trauma.
No,
What's
there isn't.
important, yeah, what's important is just trying to tap into what your younger self felt and to parent and nurture them through that feeling.
But, which is
Yeah.
part of
But
the reason I
luckily,
start therapy. But
yeah. But
I've got
luckily
people
I don't yeah, I don't remember the actual experiences.
good.
I but I think I
Well,
don't remember because I knew they weren't about me.
well,
You know
I
what I'm
had
saying? Like, and that wasn't me. That was something that was, I call it divine guidance that guided me to learn to touch my heart, right? And do that and go, world's a loving, accepting place. This is not about me. Why are they hurting? Why would they do this to somebody? Not me. Why would they do this to somebody?
right.
You know?
That's a
So,
defense mechanism, and it worked very well for you. That's excellent. I had a stroke when I was 3 months old,
yeah,
and I think that caused some brain damage to me.
yeah,
You
yeah.
had a
It's
traumatic, you had a TMI, traumatic brain injury.
traumatic.
TBI.
Yeah, I was in a car accident when
Right.
I was 2 and I'd had trauma, but nobody knew about it. Nobody knew until 2018, 19 when
They
I
wouldn't.
went, whoa, I started because I found compensatory mechanisms, but my life, and that was the whole purpose of my message. God gifted me with this brain that I could not do what the rest of the world did. I just didn't understand it. I was intellectually brilliant, cognitively all right, I would say retarded. It's not politically correct to say that, but I'm talking about myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to just be. I
Mm-hmm.
had to just find my sense of worth and value in the world in my state of being, not in anything I did. And that's the whole gift and crux of the story that if we just allow ourselves to just be and not get sucked up into the box and get shoved in some box.
Yeah.
I got into trouble the past few years because I tried to make my brain do things it's not designed to do. It's not meant to do, right? Like, and we just as a society have to go like neurodiversity, which definitely ties into crime. um, I don't know if there have been studies on what percentage, but neurodiversity is the brain works backwards than neurotypical, right? And a neurodiverse brain has to be left to do what it's good at the way it's good at it. The journey's longer, but when I allowed my brain to I followed that inner guidance and I just let my brain work the way it works, I thrived at everything I touched. When I started in 2018 to try to do things the way the rest of the world did, I got coaching and all this stuff. That's when I started just tanking, right?
Yeah.
Because I have all this, even when I pack, every time I pack, and I've been moving a lot the past couple of years, I see everything I created, boxes and boxes of court, like, and it breaks my heart going, I don't know what to do with them. I can create them, I can get to the point, but then I'm stuck. That's why I give things away. Not only does it fill my heart, but it's easier, right? Simpler. And I think there are a lot of people like that. And a neurodiverse brain, though, it it needs to do what it is good at. And I think what happens with crime, I'm not talking serious murder. I'm talking like when kids get into trouble in high school, is
Yeah.
that their brains can't learn the way the neurotypical does. And no one understands them. And no, they don't have the right nurturing or mentoring. They don't, usually if it's in a area of crime, I mean, it's just set up for disaster. Same way I said one thing, a neurodiverse brain without anyone taking it and saying this is how you work with it is is set up for addiction and abuse because you don't understand the way society works. You're brilliant, but not cognitively. You're
Right.
intellectually, right?
Right.
And
That's more me, I think.
yeah, it's me too. I'm brilliant, but you never know by the way I execute. In the pen and paper world, I was able to find my way, but in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
computer, I have the knowledge how to do it, but not the eye-hand coordination.
Right. I
If
write
it's
very
simple,
well. I do a lot of writing. In fact, I
yeah,
just completed one on for the church. I'm waiting for Becky to get back to me. I'm going to try to call her today and see if she has anything to say on it. But that's not the point. But when we're dealing with crime and karma, it leads to addiction.
yeah, chime and trauma.
Karma.
I like that.
See, I don't talk very well either sometimes. But
Yeah,
crime, trauma
that's
leads to addiction. If we don't help,
yeah,
if we don't get help or cause us out or help us out.
yeah. It's
One of the main major causes of addiction is being involved in a traumatic event, either as a witness or as a survivor,
yeah.
or
Well,
as a perpetrator. Because being a perpetrator, I believe, can also cause trauma.
mhm.
In the commission of a crime, you shoot somebody and hurt them, don't kill them, but you hurt them, that's going to cause you trauma. That's
Yeah.
a major event when you shoot somebody.
If you're not a sociopath, it will. I mean,
Yeah,
it's some of these problems are so big that leaders, systems just they look for the quick fixes, but the quick fixes are never going to solve the problem. And to be honest with you, from my life experience, from my own personal experience, from professional experience, what people really need is to feel seen, heard, and loved as a foundation. As a
mhm,
foundation. That doesn't answer everything, but that's where the way I lived my life connecting with people, I never felt alone or unsupported. So I never felt fearful. I went, oh, that's okay. I'm not alone. Someone else, they're just like me. I'm like them. I mean, I can see myself in anyone. I can see myself in the homeless person. I can see myself in a drug addict. I can see myself in anyone because I've experienced the emotions they have. Not that I've experienced the situation,
the
but
trauma.
if we're not willing to see our own darkness, we can't be that for other people as much as we want to. It's not possible from a genuine, authentic place.
Well,
You know,
seeing our own darkness is an incredibly difficult thing to do because we're frightened
it
of it.
is.
We're
It
frightened of
is.
it.
Yeah.
And I have done some of that, but not a whole lot because it
Dude, I
just,
sit in darkness
yeah,
every day of my life, every
yeah,
day. But what we don't realize is I've never seen it as a curse because I went, oh, okay. I didn't understand the spiritual aspects, like how everything I do is divinely guided before 2020. But I knew that this was teaching, I was connecting with myself. That heart and the breathing is the easiest way to connect with yourself. And
mhm,
so over the years of childhood, all my traumas served to, I kind of hibernated. I went to spiritual dissociation, I guess, but I spent most of my childhood alone in my room, but learning how to hold a safe space for the dark and the light. And since I could hold a safe space for my my fear and the situation I was in, I learned to feel safe with me and to connect deeply with that. For me, it's that little voice I hear in my heart, the voiceless voice. And so I could go out into the world, and the hugging, the emotional intimacy. And what I mean by that is going up to people, not superficial conversation. That doesn't give us the emotional intimacy we need to fill our hearts and feel safe. It's the stuff like, what do you struggle with? Like taking a look at the what is so we can get rid of that and shift it to what
Mhm.
can be. You can't just jump to that's why when I sit in all these places where they're trying to motivate and manipulate people's minds, I'm like, really? Come on, I've worked in the hood. You tell me you're sitting there by yourself with 4 kids, roaches crawling all over. You need a little more than your words. We need each other. Just very minimally, we need each other just to know we're not alone and to say, hey, you're having a dark time? I'm okay. Let it out. I'm okay. But you can only do that if you're okay with yourself.
Well, yeah, you have to be. And one of the things I learned early on in my career as a counselor was I just started too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
complete with my work yet. I started at 2 years sober,
Mm-hmm.
really sober, stable.
But were you aware of because I don't know if we ever truly are done with the work, right? I think the key with guiding others and mentoring others is you have to be open and be vulnerable to your own pains and issues. And if you're open and willing to look at yourself, then you can serve others from a healthy place. And together, you can start to heal one another,
Yeah.
right? And I,
And
I
I was
think
able
that's,
to share. I was able to share a lot of my darkness and stuff, but not everything. In fact, there's
yeah.
still some things that I won't share.
But and you don't have to, but you have to be willing to look in the mirror and see it for yourself.
Oh,
That's the key.
I do
Yeah.
almost every day.
That's That's the key. And that's what helped the women on welfare. That's why they did so much better. It wasn't anything anyone taught me in school. It was my willingness to say, "Oh man, yeah, I've been there." And I didn't even tell them I would never tell them what to do. I'd say, "This is what I did if you want to see if it works for you." But we don't like to be told what to do. Do you like to be told what to do?
No, no,
Nobody.
I didn't tell my
Try,
clients what to do. I said make suggestions. This is what
yeah,
been known to work. You might want to give it a try. If you don't, that's
yeah,
okay. Maybe you'll find something better. But you got
yeah,
to be willing to look for it and find it.
yeah,
Not sit here and get home from work and start drinking.
yeah,
Go for a
yeah,
drive. I said that doesn't work for you, does it? Well,
yeah.
no. And then try something that will work.
Yeah, well, that's what I one of the greatest things I miss nursing so much. By now I'm supposed to be doing something different, but I would walk in. I dealt with pregnant women. I'll never forget one woman. I walked in her house. She knew I was coming, and she's drinking a glass of wine and smoking a joint. And I just looked at her and I'm like, okay, you want me to catch you, right? Because you know I'm coming. So we had talk, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but this is what happens in your body anyone's when they do these things. But I'm not going to try to judge you. What I am going to do is ask you, do you think you can cut back? And she said, yeah, because she was smoking like 6 or 7 joints a day.
Oh my
And I
God.
said, and
Pregnant.
I said,
Poor baby.
yeah, I said, realistically, what do you think you can cut back to by the time I come next week? She goes, I can cut back by 1 a day. I said, okay, we're going to plan on. And so we go one baby steps because what healthcare does is you have to do this and they try to instill fear. Well, that's the worst thing. No one's going to make somebody do something more, right? And so I would call doctors. I'm like, listen, this is just to let you know, I would rather get small, slow results than set unrealistic goals and then she fails and feels bad about herself. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
Oh,
if I said to her, you have to quit, that's probably how she got to smoking 6 or 7 because so many people told her she had to quit. And she went, I can't quit. I don't, you know? I don't know. Okay, I took it. Well, somehow we got off topic, but
Yeah. Well, no, because smoking it's not a crime in most places anymore.
yeah,
That's part of the problem. That part of a large part of that program that I did for the church deals with marijuana and women and pregnancy.
yeah,
And what was the other?
and
There were two of them. There was women and pregnancy and adolescents.
yeah,
The average
yeah,
age of first use of marijuana is 12. Their brains are
you know,
not developed.
yeah. I know kids experiment, but like, and it didn't work with my kids. I told them this, and they had to find their own way. But I just don't even try it. If something's bad for you, just don't even try it. Like, new desserts. I don't even try them because it's hard enough not to deprive myself of the stuff I do like. I don't want to like something, you know what I'm saying? So
I,
we have to figure out though, like, how can we get children to, it all starts at home, unfortunately. It really does. It's not the
yeah,
job of teachers. It's, it starts at home and most
very young age.
parents.
At very young ages, it starts at home.
Yeah. Same thing with crime. You can say inner city, black, white, whatever, but it all starts with the very foundation of
You got a
feeling loved, feeling safe.
you got a
That's a,
4 or 5 year old listening to the TV and the news, and they're talking about some crime that just happened, and giving graphic pictures and very graphic commentary. That boy
however,
sitting there.
yeah, but if you have a foundation and a parent who, number one, wouldn't let you watch that, but number two, feeling safe, feeling safe is huge. And my family, I never felt safe with anyone, but I did feel safe with what I know now. That voiceless voice was inner guidance,
Mhm.
divine guidance, angels, whatever you want to call it. But that voice told me my life would be very difficult, but I would always be safe.
No, I was
That's,
never felt safe in my family or alone for a long, long time.
yeah.
I feel safe now to a large degree.
The
There's
first
something
time
in
I,
my past that I'm deathly afraid of.
yeah, the first time I felt emotionally safe in my entire life, I didn't feel emotionally safe in my home because my ex-husband was a bit abusive verbally. But I remember during COVID, I was staying in my own apartment. I'm like, oh, this is a kind of cool feeling. I like it. I don't think I left the house for like a month. It was so cool,
I
and
had
I
three
started to
roommates.
judge. Yeah, I was
I had
like,
two
no,
roommates.
I'm good. Yeah,
No,
and you had what?
I
I
had
missed
two
the last.
roommates during COVID. I was living in
Oh,
an apartment in a mobile home with 3 people.
wow. That's, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about people who were in abuse situations during COVID. My heart was going out to them because I'm like,
Oh
oh
yeah, me
shit,
too.
you're trapped. Kids that were abused, like,
Thing
oh,
thing is, you said if you got a loving, kind family that can take you through that trauma that you're 4 years old watching the newscast. But how many families are truly that way?
they're not, and that's the problem. Healthy families heal the world. Unfortunately, because no one ever deals with our own
And if
stuff,
that was true,
we don't realize we're passing it on to our kids. Oh,
right?
we're taking, I mean, and that I'm not faulting anyone. It just,
No, it's nobody's fault.
yeah, it's nobody's fault. It's just that's, so this whole awakening though, like what really upsets me is that from what I see, and I'm not on the internet much, but what the different places I've been, we're looking at awakening. Uh, we're looking at incorrectly. And
Hmm.
I believe when I vision what I see ahead, this whole shift is not about us becoming better. It's not about making our brains faster. It's not about more science. It's about learning how to be human again. It's about bringing out the what we've buried under all the doing and advancement of knowledge is that we forgot who we are, the love in our hearts.
Right. We
And
forgot
that's what
that
this
long
is
before
about.
technology. We forgot that long
Yeah.
before technology got so bad.
Yeah, it's not about becoming your best self. It's about becoming you.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, we were all great at birth. I've seen thousands of deliveries. Ugly each baby, they're magic. And I used to
Yes,
go
they
like,
are.
who'd your soul come here to be before the world's going to snuff it out of you?
Right.
You know, not that the world's mean, but our own
It is.
fears.
No, no, no. I
Yeah,
disagree with you there, Leslie. The world is mean.
the world's hurt. And I'll tell you what, hurt people don't hurt people always. Hurt people who hide their hurt always hurt people.
Yes.
Hurt people who know they're hurting and acknowledge they're hurt, they are the light workers of the world.
Yeah, they don't hurt.
Hurt, hurt people who hide the hurt and end up being adults who have all this
That's
stuff.
that 4-year-old sitting in front of the newscast.
Yeah, they're the ones who hurt people.
Yeah,
So
it's that 4-year-old sitting in front of the newscast, like I was talking about. Goes up and
yeah,
goes out. First thing he does is rob a bank at 15, or a liquor store
yeah.
at 15. You know, I just found this out that girls are catching up to boys at 15 years old in the amount of drinking they're doing, and pot use is decreasing
Wow. You know,
among all of them. But women are catching up to men in how much, because it used to be a lot less. There were a lot less 50-year-old girls drinking than there were 14, 15-year-old boys. Now they've caught up.
here's the interesting thing. Now, this is not a recent, but as of like a year or two ago when I was, but sex is on the decrease.
Yes.
That's not good. Because there's no now I'm not saying sex is good, right? But we're losing connection, physical.
Yeah.
This thing we're on, our conversations are filling, but if you and I were in person, the energy would be a whole lot different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I was able to do throughout my life with other people, and they did for me. We held a space for one another. I may have initiated it. My heart was open, but my heart was open allowed them to open their heart.
Right.
And that feeling of an open heart and being free to just be, that's when you don't have that, that's when you look for all the material stuff to distract you. And I think the gift of what's happening in the world is that the doing aspect's going to be taken away. Same way I was forced into being, right? And it was the greatest gift in the world, and I'm trying to get back to it now, is because life was just simple, but it was fulfilling. I look back and still this day I'll say, look, I've had the greatest life ever. But if you look on paper, I had adversity and challenges and trauma every single day of my life.
Yeah.
But it was my connection with the outside world. When I was out in the world with strangers, I could be Leslie. My heart was open, and there was just love. I gave it. I didn't need it back because it just automatically filled my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we're going. Unfortunately, in the process, crimes, it's going to, as things start to fall apart, like structures and systems, it's going to be scary. And our role is to just be the objective observer and not judge people and just go, ooh, when I feel scared, they must be scared. Like, what can I do to comfort them?
Just bullying on school ground is going to cause trauma to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Two kids are fighting at school. Somebody around them in that group around them is going to be traumatized.
Right. And so what do we do? Usually they go in and the kids discipline whatever, when what really that kid probably needs is someone just to put their arms around him and say, it's okay, I'm here. Any behavior like that is not sociopathic comes from the need attention.
In my opinion, they're not disciplined. They're punished, which is worse.
Right.
Punishment, according to the dictionary, says punishment is the infraction, is the change of motivation. No, wait a minute. Dang it! Change of direct behavior, change of behavior by use of pain.
Yeah.
That's the definition of pain. That's the definition of discipline. Not discipline, punishment. That's the discipline of punishment. The motivation to change behavior through the use of pain. The definition of discipline is the institution and motivation to change behavior by use of education and learning.
Hmm. No, there's that love in there too. I mean, and
Well, it's
it's
not in the dictionary, but it
yeah.
is in there.
Well, I mean, one of the things that in the past couple of years I realized, because I was actually, it took me years to figure out why I walked away from everything that I experienced with such a deep love and acceptance of people in my heart and of myself, right? And one of the things I learned is that, like, we try to change behavior, we try to change beliefs. I never changed my beliefs. I changed my perception of the experience that created the belief. It's much easier. My beliefs are I'm alone and I'm too much. And in reality, I am on my own. And in reality, with my brain trauma, for a lot of people, I am too much. It's not a false belief. But what the experience, my perception of why I am that way was not a negative thing. It was more of a matter of fact thing, right? Even when I didn't know about my brain thing, I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. I have to be me, you
Yeah.
know? And, but I think we try, instead of, even with crime, like in rehabbing people, and I lost the word I really wanted to think of that began with an R, but it's not changing the behavior. It's changing perception of the experiences that caused the belief that caused you to behave in the way you do.
Well, I see that. I don't know if I totally understand it, but I know what you're
It just
talking.
says like, yeah, it says like instead of looking at when you were hit as you were like his hit, go, okay, what was I to learn in this? Why was I gifted with this experience? Because when you can, and it sounds crazy, but life is learning to master a mindset and change perception. You have to do a little magical thinking, right? You know what I'm saying? You have to see beyond the present,
I know
and
the answer. Yeah, I know
does
the
that
answer
make
to the
sense?
question, but I want to ask you. I know the answer to the question. I've lived with it all my life. What causes bullies? Is it the
What
victim that
cause?
causes the bullies, or the bullies causing the bullying, or is it a combination of both?
Wait, the victim causing the bully. You mean the bully being a victim? Here's
Being the victim
here,
of a bully, do you cause the bullying, or does the bully
yeah.
cause it, or is it a combination of both of them?
I think it's combination. It's like the chicken or the egg, right? Which came first? But I think here's what I figured out about all human behavior, right? And because each circumstance is individual, but there, all of us have had experienced some type of trauma, adversity, where it had the potential to make us feel less than who we really are, right?
Yes.
And when you do that and you don't feel safe, you start hiding yourself because it's safer to hide yourself. Then when you can't be yourself, you can't see that you can trust yourself. And so then you're just feeling all the time unsafe inside, right? You're ungrounded within because you don't understand. You can't see that you're actually trustworthy. From that sense of unsafety comes fear, right? When
Mm-hmm.
there's fear, and pretty much everyone has fear, it's a human emotion, right? Fear, when people are in fear, they need to feel like they're in control. And I saw it in myself the past couple of years. When you have to control, I think there are two types of two ways of controlling, feeling in control. One is control other people, and that'll make you feel like you're in control. The other is please other people, and so you'll feel safe that way and in control that way. But if you look at people, like look at the narcissistic coping mechanisms, they're the ones, they control their own fear by trying to control and control other people.
Mm-hmm.
Codependents, people pleasers, they try to, but it's all about fear and control, which come from not feeling safe with yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Makes a lot of sense.
So, in answer your question with the bullying, you just gotta, I look at everyone, including myself, as that 5-year-old that went on. Look, I fell into the fear cycle for the first time in my life. I felt fear in the past couple of years because as I was trying to do things and I knew I was working diligently and doing all the right things, it wasn't working. And the more fearful I got because I went, oh my God, if I can't figure this out, what am I going to do? Like, no one even understands problem. I started to get in the fear cycle. When I started to get fear, the harder I worked because I was scared. I was like, let me figure out this problem. The harder I worked, the more fear I felt, the more damage I did to my brain. Right?
Yeah.
So I even knew what I was doing, and I was still doing it because I was on my own. If I had been out in the world hugging people and all that, I will bet you everything I own that I would not have fallen down that far into that fear and need to control.
Most likely you would not have.
Yeah. That's just from, but I think because it's hard to label whether the bully, because, and I know we lump people into categories, but labeling and putting people in the groups is the worst thing we could do because you assume everyone's like that, right?
Not just bullying,
So
everybody. Labeling anybody for any reason.
my guess is the bullies I've met have been bullied, and they're in a home where they don't feel emotionally safe. They're not allowed to express themselves. And so they take it out on others and they do what they've seen at home, and
That's exactly my point. This is what I believe on bullying. It's a combination of both. The passive one, the bully, the one that gets bullied, is usually very passive. And he starts crying, and that triggers being afraid and shaking and calling names and stuff, trying to poke, puff himself up a bit.
Yeah.
The bully, on the other hand, triggers him to be violent.
Yeah.
Or verbally violent,
well,
physically violent, but it triggers him to his deeper, darker side.
Right. And so if you have a parent that says, hey, listen, it's okay to feel like that. It's not okay to take it out on other people. So let's figure out, when do you feel like that? And what could you do to take that feeling away? And there's nothing, we're in this phase of everything positive. That's going to get us into more danger.
Mm-hmm.
That toxic positivity, because life is hard. There's some serious challenges, but you have to face the what is before you can ever shift the perception of it.
If you have a parent who tells say a father who's a violent tells his son it's okay to cry, and don't beat him, then you're going to have a healthier child.
Yes, absolutely. And if you have a father who allows their child to see them cry and recover from that, then crying isn't the worst thing in the world. Because crying is an excellent thing. It's the way we get that negative energy.
I have a saying about crying. Tears are to the soul as soap is to the body.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. My whole thing. Just better out than in. That's all. Yeah, with anything, I'm like, oh, better out than in, and it's, the answer to this is so simple, yet not easy to implement. It's really, at this point, homelessness, ridiculously crazy. There are people working 2 jobs and homeless.
Yeah.
That's freaking crazy, right? And
some of the homeless, and I know for a fact because I've talked to them, like that lifestyle, and that's what they want to live.
Some do, yeah. But where we get into trouble is we feel sorry and we judge them because that's not how we want to live our lives. Right. And I kind of, to not judge myself and people so much. I always, from a little kid, kind of knew that I had a soul. Like this wasn't my first rodeo, you know?
Yeah.
And so I look at go, instead of looking at my experiences and going, what's this mean about me? I go, what, what was my soul supposed to learn?
Yeah.
Like, and let me learn it because I don't want to come back. I
No.
want to go to like but I think if we can start, once people start realizing that divinity, that there are worlds beyond us and some of them are coexisting at the same time, that it's not a fairy, um, and that's going to have to start with mental health. I've
Yeah.
been to in times I really needed to talk to someone, and it was heavy. So I don't like to burden other people. It's a lot that I deal with, and it's a lot.
Yeah. But here as
But
therapy,
but when you go to a therapist, if you don't have a spiritually enlightened therapist, I
yeah.
know because I'm a mental health nurse, everything I've experienced and thinking, they go, "You're nuts." It's not nuts. It's
No.
spiritual. Like but once we start realizing that, if we can go like, okay, was what does my soul need to learn from this experience? So
Right.
it's not what does this experience mean about me as a person? It's like, what do I need to learn?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we all have things to learn.
Yeah.
My thing as a therapist, all we need to do several things. One, be healthy ourselves,
Hmm.
be in therapy ourselves, because they're going to build up on us from what we're hearing from our clients. It always builds up on you. We need to be teaching the parents before we teach the children.
Exactly.
The parents,
You're,
healthy, respectful, loving parents
yeah,
who will then treat their children differently, who will treat their children differently, and over a period of couple of generations, we've got a pretty healthy country.
right. And, I saw this in Philly and I would speak out about this and people kind of looked, but did, yeah, it wasn't really taken very seriously. But I'm like, listen, I'm in the home of women who have young children,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like school age. And if you equip this child with knowledge that the parent does not have, particularly in certain cultures, that is worse for the child. Because then, and it's actually how I've felt the past couple of years. I have all this knowledge, but it's so hard for me to execute on it. It it leads to a feeling of powerless when you have knowledge that you can't do anything with. And that's what we do if we teach children before the parents, or this is a family thing. Like
Yeah, it is familiar.
once a kid's like 8 or 9 years old, they can comprehend this stuff, right? But before 8 or 9, you can't. But
No,
once kids are 8 or 9, I think we need, like, parents need to be brought in and to learn how to communicate as families, because all this really boils down to communication. If you
yes.
could have said to people who are hitting me, "What's wrong with me? Why are you doing this to me?" And they'd have to stop and go,
Well,
maybe
the
not the
only,
first time, but eventually we don't ask questions, open-ended ones. And when
no,
you ask someone a question, it forces them to stop and think about what they're doing. Why are they doing it? And if someone, and we'll never know, but if someone could have said to you, "This has nothing to do. It could be anyone in this spot. It has nothing to do about you. I'm so sorry." Would have made it better. The long-term chronic trauma, emotionally, yeah, I think so.
I
Because
think
the
so.
whole
I
thing
think
would,
you're right.
yeah,
Leslie.
because emotional, I've suffered, physical, well, sexual abuse and emotional, and the
Yeah,
emotional abuse is much more damaging.
the scars don't show.
Yeah. But it impedes who you are as an individual. A hit is a hit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
but when someone gaslights you and tells you you're horrible and you're every
Yeah.
day like
Never amount to
that,
anything. Like I was, you'll never amount to anything. You're stupid.
yeah,
That's from my
yeah.
parents, both of them.
Do you know
Uh,
what came back from me these past few years? I had to go back and deal with my whole childhood because as I was knowing I was doing everything I needed to be doing, but it wasn't working. I couldn't be productive. Every report card I remember came back. does not meet potential, does not meet potential, does not meet potential. And I didn't meet potential not because I wasn't trying. I probably worked, I don't know how many, but I worked a hell of a lot harder than most people just to do what I did. And that's where I think a lot of kids that end up in the criminal system, in the juvenile system, I think they're trying and trying and trying their best. And everyone's saying, what are you doing? Like, why are you messing around? You have to do this, you have to do this. And they're going like, I'm fucking trying. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what else. Yeah, and I think that's for neurodiversity and trauma.
mhm.
It's just like, unless there's some guidance and mentoring from someone who's,
I was read through
yeah,
with Dr. Diggs that it wasn't me.
yeah,
It wasn't about me. It wasn't for me. It wasn't in any way connected to me except I was convenient. That's the only thing that has happened.
yeah,
It wasn't about me. I wasn't being abused because of who I was. I was being abused because of who my father was.
hmm yeah, and his demons, and kids are unfortunately innocent bystanders.
And he was abusing because of what his father did to him.
Yeah,
It was like multi-generational.
yeah, and that's what I think. Spirit, God. I mean, I'm looking and I think I've always believed in God, but I never allow myself to do because I have a feeling I told people about near-death experiences and stuff, adults, and they just it just made the abuse even
Well,
worse.
we have about 9 minutes left.
Oh,
but,
shoot, we didn't even talk. Yeah, but for
We've
for
got a
people
lot
out
of
there
content.
though,
We've got a lot of good stuff in here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. When you structure the conversations I would do that were transformational, and women after 1 2 hour conversation made these major shifts in their lives,
We
and
never
they
will.
they said it was that conversation. It was because it was free flowing.
Yeah.
I used my inner guidance to ask them. I let them guide the conversation,
Mhm.
right? So here's where systems get into trouble. A couple places, academic institutions wanted to back me, but they're like, you have to ask the same questions in the same order. I said, I'm not going to get the same results. Not everybody needs that question. I'm guided by what someone says, you
That's
know?
where I did it.
Yeah. And that's why these conversations, you let it go where it goes,
Colorado has a rule that there's a book you have to follow in DUI education. So you
Yeah.
get the same lessons at the same time during the 8 weeks. So
Yeah.
everybody gets, and I refuse to use the book.
Yeah. I mean, I was so good as a nurse because I didn't do the same thing.
I did what needed to be done.
Whatever the person needed, and that's what I was able to just listen and feel, but I didn't think about it. I felt it. I opened my heart and went, if that was me, and that's what you cannot follow your inner guidance if your heart chakra is closed.
That's right.
You can't.
Can't do it.
Simple as that. Simple as, and if your heart chakra is closed, this is why I think most people run around when they're got the armor on, and most of us don't even know it's on. Then your head says, "I'm a really good, compassionate person," but then your actions, your behavior, your words aren't in alignment with what you know, and that's where the internal conflict. Yeah.
No, and that really messes everybody up.
Because you think you're one person, but you're not acting, behaving, and it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. You're judging yourself. That's the key.
You see,
Because you're not walking. You're not in integrity with who you are. Who most of us are.
I believe you see my cross.
Oh, I like that.
You'll see it in person here pretty soon.
I can't see clearly, like details, but I see it's big and
you will when you get
yeah.
here. I got a belt buckle and a ring that goes with it.
It's faith. I mean, I said I didn't believe in God, and I'm fine now. My message, like I keep trying to go into business. Mine's not. I'm a minister. I was guided, and it was God, but not the God everyone talks about. The God that
you got your
my
own
God.
Okay.
I mean,
that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's why glamming up God. I think it's to tell people about the God I had conversations with every day. I still do.
Yeah.
He's not some narcissist. The God they portray is like this bullying narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
not the God I know.
No, God is
You know,
very
but it,
kind. But I wear this cross on the outside of my shirt, not to tell you I'm a Christian,
yeah,
but to tell me that if I'm going to be
mm,
profess to be a Christian, I'd better be acting like one.
yeah, yep. And the hypocrisy in the world that I've seen,
Yes.
holy crap! I
Both of
didn't
them.
see all this most of my life. God's been showing me time after, like a woman who like called me because she saw me. She's like, "I love support group. Would you do it with me?" I'm like, "Sure," And I was supposed to meet her one day after the service, and I said, "Listen, I'm not going to service. Can you meet later tonight or tomorrow?" And she just responded back, "No." And I said, "Well, how about whatever?" Never heard back, and I'm going, "Okay, I knew that's not about me, but like, just no." But the reality is, by her doing that and like what they call it, cancel culture, whatever, not only if she runs a support group, like she's not walking and talk, that's not what you do with people. But the
No.
other end is whether she realizes or not, that's making her think less of herself, and that's
Absolutely.
why
No, you're not
we're
right.
taking all this wrong with cutting off people. Just cut them off. Don't say
Yeah.
anything. I mean, I've heard more people over the years. No, I just didn't answer them.
I
You're hurting yourself by doing that,
I had two
So,
priests and several other good friends of mine in California and Colorado cut me off. Just stop talking to me, including my
yeah,
three sons.
yeah, yeah. I
I
don't
won't.
even know what happened with this girl. She
No,
didn't, and I part of me, I was thinking, like, do I say to her just as a lesson, like, hey, listen, whatever you want, that's fine by me. But the considerate thing would have been to just say, I'm not interested in meeting anymore. But people don't have the courage to do
no,
that.
they don't.
And texting makes it so easy to be a coward. But
Yeah.
being a coward is why you don't feel safe with yourself, right? Like it all goes, yeah, you got to
Totally.
come. Yeah, you can't abandon and betray yourself. That's the bottom line.
That's right. And that helps you to clear your trauma from your event. See, that's the thing we
Yeah.
got to remember is what's traumatic to person A may not be traumatic to person B.
Yep. Yeah. It's all in the perception.
But the
And
person B has their own trauma.
yeah. So instead of saying trauma, it's like, what do you feel? Okay, because you know what? Anxiety is anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is fear. Like we can,
We heal it.
when we're talking about empathy, you're asking someone who's really rich to have empathy with a homeless person. No, of course they don't understand, probably. That's circumstance.
No, they don't.
But what emotions are you feeling? Because there are only a certain amount of emotions. You have
Okay.
those emotions in common. So identify with the emotions. But that's what's scary for people. They don't want to feel that because that reminds them of those. That's why we do boundaries.
They're very
Boundaries because we don't want to feel other people's emotions. But the reality is, if you come to term with your own emotions and allow yourself to feel your own, you can feel others without making you feel horrible.
I can usually
It'll
read
actually
people
empower
pretty
you.
good. I can
Yeah.
usually read them pretty good. We're going to have to go. We got a minute and a half left. So I'm going to put this
Okay. It
down
was a
just
pleasure.
it was a
Okay.
wonderful, wonderful show. I
It
get an
was. It
episode.
makes it hard to describe these, though. Thank you again, guys. Dale does
Yes,
everything. All I do is show up. So
yeah,
this
she
is
does.
Dale's.
She shows up and does the show for me, which makes it easy. Anyway,
No,
let's
but it's,
just
yeah. Thank you, Dale. Thank you. Thank you.
we will get together when you get to Colorado for dinner,
Sounds good.
for lunch,
Sounds
or
good,
whatever
babe.
you get here.
All right. Hey,
Okay?
let's start a thing. Put your hand on your heart real quick. All right. And just look at me and let's breathe in.
Okay, I'm afraid I have to put us off here.
Go ahead. That's fine. We're good.